So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for the introduction, and very happy to be able to be here with our keynote speakers, Patti and Thurman Thomas. A little bit of background. I think everyone has some familiarity, but both Thurman and Patti were tremendous athletes at their days at Oklahoma State University. Patti was a college golf walk-on and made the Oklahoma State Cowgirls golf team. And then now in her career is also an accomplished artist, known throughout the country. Thurman, of course, was a Heisman Trophy candidate in his senior year and first team selection on the college football All-American team in 1985 and 1987. Thurman was drafted in the second round of the 1988 NFL Draft. It was a key ingredient to the Bills' no-huddle offensive attack, who helped them to an unprecedented 4 straight Super Bowl appearances, which for a Buffalonian like me, those were what we call the glory days. Thurman was named to the NFL's All-Decade Team of the 1990s. He was selected first or second team All-Pro and All-AFC 5 times, and was voted to the Pro Bowl 5 straight times, and is a member of both the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the College Football Hall of Fame. Patti and Thurman are the co-founders of the Thurman Thomas Family Foundation. Patti also sits on the Birchfield Penny Arts Center board, as well as the Oshai Children's Foundation board, and was a key person within our 514 Remembrance Committee this past year. Together, Thurman and Patti have 8 children between the ages of 34 and 22, as well as 5 incredible grandchildren, and who range in age from 2 years to 5 months. So their full bios for Luncheon keynotes are available in the conference app, and certainly encourage you to take a look at that, because I was only able to touch on some of the highlights there, and there's so much more. But Patti and Thurman, really thank you so much for being here today. So glad to be able to have you join us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I thought a nice way to kind of get us kicked off, if you could both let us know how you first started getting involved in your communities. You had your very successful professional careers, but then obviously you really started to look into how to get involved within the community.
Right. So thank you for that really nice introduction. It's a lot easier when we're up here talking to a friend. It seems like we're just in the living room. It's really nice. Thank you all for having us today. It's really nice to be here on this sunny day in Albany.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, great. I can remember when I was playing in my Buffalo Bills days, my focus was really on football and my family. I mean, that's, to be honest with you, that was our life back then. I mean, they didn't have the guaranteed contracts that they have now. I mean, basically you went from year to year on each of your things, on your contracts, and it was tough, but just like you say, thank you for having us, and we're going to get into what we have to talk about.
Yeah.
Right, and so as Thurman was mentioning, when he was playing football, he was really concentrating on his craft, and we were young parents, and we had small children. And I think, just to be a dad and a football player that was successful in the NFL, it was a lot as young parents, and we weren't that, and I mean, I would say we did things in our community, but we weren't really that involved. And then we moved back to Buffalo. We were gone for about 6 years, right from Thurman's, when he retired in 2000, till about 2007, and we moved back to Buffalo. And, we were growing up as human beings and as parents, and we realized that we did have a platform, and with that platform, I always like to use the Spider-Man, his Aunt, is it Aunt B? Aunt May said, with great power, not that we have great power, but with any power comes responsibility. And as we were growing up and we wanted to do more, and we realized that with our platform that we could. So that was the birth and the establishment of the Thurman Thomas Family Foundation.
And it was a perfect fit, because early in my career, back in 1992, I started a scholarship program at Erie Community College in Buffalo. So this was a perfect fit for us, for our family foundation, because we were still wanting to work with ECC, which now SUNY Erie Community College, so you have to say it that way. So it was a perfect fit for us to go out and partner with them on some of the things that we wanted to do, on a different level. Because back then I didn't have that much time, but now I have a lot more time to do a lot of things. So the level of our involvement has gone from here to here.
Well, and certainly, as someone in the community, have witnessed that as you came back to the community, becoming more and more involved. And I think one of the things I was wondering if you could get into a little bit is that you've gotten more involved in the diversity and inclusion areas and some of the work that you're doing kind of related to the mission of the foundation. I was wondering if you could expand upon that a little bit.
So absolutely. So I think, we did start with a scholarship, and I will kind of explain how that scholarship works. Is that the scholarship itself is dedicated to only, the recipients are Black and brown people that live within the Buffalo city limits and that have challenging, so they'll finish their first year and they have a very challenging circumstances that arise for that second year. And we're not choosing recipients that have A's and B's because they're typically getting scholarships and grants. We're doing this and we're giving the scholarships to students that are really struggling. Some of them barely passed that first year, but we know they have the drive to want to come back and get their associate's degree, and so that's kind of where we step in and we'll alleviate the cost of it, and it's worked for us. And that was kind of our step into just the diversity and equity and inclusion, and just realizing the deficits in our community and how we could be more proactive in helping other organizations, other foundations, speaking on behalf of what those deficits are and how we could work together.
And with that idea, being really one of your first steps in that area of education, here we have an audience of everyone who's involved in healthcare in one way or another, and certainly the recognition, I think, of the need for greater diversity within healthcare. And I'm just curious of your thoughts with that and some of your personal experiences that you may have had.
So I think in the questions that we have coming up, do we address that, or would you like me to just dive in? Because I think that
Sure, we can go right into that. That would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Want to repeat that question?
Sure. So just really from the point of view of how important is it for us to be able to have a more diverse healthcare delivery system? So, certainly I think historically minorities have been underrepresented within healthcare on the delivery system side. And I know, for example, in a practice I worked in where I had many of my patients were in the underserved community, but there weren't a lot of people who were taking care of them that looked like them.
Right.
And we recognize that as a challenge.
I think when you come down to that situation, I think the one word that you're looking for is trust. You have to, in instances, we have a broken system. We have to have some levels of comfort on that. And when you walk into a healthcare facility or a hospital and you are a person of color and you don't see any people of color on that floor or when you're going in, they're usually the patients going in. And now you want to be able to walk in there, and I've seen it before. I was born in '66 and I stayed with my aunt and uncles, and and it was talked about then, back when, because my family, they were going to doctors, but they weren't really sure about that. So now when you walk into these places, you want to be sure, I want to walk in, I want to see 5 black doctors right away. I want to see, because I think there is a trust factor, because we've heard of some of the stories that goes on in hospital and everything. So I think for us, Black and brown people, there's a trust factor that we would like to have someone that we can go in there and count on, that we know. Now it could be a family friend or it could be a family member, but you have that trust factor, a face that you can put to when you walk in that hospital. I think that helps tremendously.
Yeah, and again, I think that's something that we've heard over and over, the importance of not only providing access to care, but with people where there is that comfort level, and so there's that ability to really get engaged. Hard to become engaged if there's not that component of trust and comfort, right?
Absolutely. I think, Thurman, even just as a white parent to, Black children, there's a trust factor, to make sure that they're getting the same care. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it's a realistic thing. You know, my kids are grown now, but now we have grandchildren, and it exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the things that your foundation has done is it's another light, a beacon of light, right, to help people recognize the importance of it. It helps to bring it home. And I know there's others out there who are looking to say, okay, what can I do? Any advice that you would give to others who are out there saying, how can I get potentially involved to start giving? You know, put another way, how from a leadership point of view, what do organizations need to do to be able to kind of further the importance of diversity and equity?
So I think personally for us, how we always tell people to get involved, and we're always, you know, hearing kind of the same things. Well, we're not you guys. We don't have that platform. Everyone has a gift, and everyone has like the ability to use their gifts. And I think you just have to do a little self-discovery on how can you be a valuable person in your community. How can you help? It could be just one person that you are reaching your hand out to. And the other thing is, I always say, we have to start speaking up.
Yeah.
We have to start speaking up when we know that a situation or a conversation is going the wrong way, and become leaders. Personally, that's kind of the advice. And I do think that from a leadership standpoint, when it comes to organizations, it's workforce programs. It's help breaking down barriers that hinder employment for those parts of our community. And there's a lot of things that go into that, and I certainly don't have all the answers to that, but I know that it's transportation, I know that it's childcare, I know that it's affordability in becoming a licensed RN, or, you know, all of these things. Right. And I think, you know, we have to figure out a way to help people become employed and get in the healthcare system so that they can move up and, like Thurman said, be doctors and really represent.
I think it's going to take it's going to take an extra effort from everybody. I know everybody's busy throughout their schedules, but, you know, hey, maybe once a week, 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, just sit down and think of a plan. How can I make this work? How can I get my message out there? I mean, if you have 100 people in a room doing that once a week for 30 minutes, I'm sure you'll come up with an answer. Yeah. I'm sure you'll come up with an answer, a platform, or whatever way that you can to get the word out. I mean, look, this is kind of our first time like talking about this, but I'm excited like when I get back to Buffalo, because we're not going to stop here. Yeah. You know, we're going to continue to, you know, be involved with the community and find out what's going on, how we can help. And because, like I say, I love my platform. I love my platform now for what I'm doing and trying to help people. But if you get more and more out there that are trying to do that, man, the dots will start connecting. They will start connecting. And right. Like I said, it's us, it's the people, it's the healthcare environment. We have to reach out more. And you know what? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid at all.
To have the conversation.
To have the conversation with people. I mean, if it's uncomfortable, fine. Then it's uncomfortable. But later on, whoever that person that was uncomfortable might think about it and be like, you know what? I think I got a change of heart here, or a change of mind of what I need to do to try to help somebody. And you know, and that goes a long way. She always gets on me about, because I try to help everybody, right? I mean, I'm just that person. And now that we're involved in, you know, a big, wide of range of things in the community, man, sometimes I'm very comfortable in what I'm talking about and what I'm doing and what I'm trying to accomplish.
Well, thank you both. And I think one of the things I really heard there that I think is so important for all of us is the need to really take an active role. I think perhaps too many times we've been a little bit more passive, right, and saying like, oh yeah, diversity, inclusion is important. I'm not opposed to it, right? But right. Now really what can we do to actively do it? And I love what you just said, you know, spend 15 minutes a day saying, how can I do it? Whether it's in our work life or in our personal life, each of those little opportunities, if I'm interpreting your comments correctly.
Right.
Yeah, yes
right,
you are. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, yeah, the diversity is the first step, you know, diversity inclusion is the first step, but to get the equity, that has to exist first, so.
Well, and I think it kind of leads into something you had shared with us earlier with your daughter, going through a pregnancy,
Yeah.
and just her thoughts about engaging in the healthcare system. Going back to Thurman, to your comments around that trust, I'm curious if you want to expand a little bit more upon that and just some of the thought process because I think for me that brought home the reality of those real concerns that are still out there.
It does, because in fact, I was watching the young lady speak earlier on the screen about, she had preeclampsia and through her pregnancy, and so did our oldest daughter, Olivia, and she delivered her first child, our grandson Leo, who's now 2.5, at Oshai. And there's a comfort level there. I'm on the board. Many of the folks there are my friends. And it just never crossed my mind the level of care that she would receive. And I guess, they moved after Leo was born, and they moved to Charlotte, and they got pregnant again. They were about to have a baby in Charlotte, and one day Olivia called me, and she said, Mommy, do you all know anyone at this particular hospital group? And I said, no, why, what's going on? And she said, well, nothing, I'm going to deliver in Charlotte. And it didn't ring a bell what she was referring to. And I said, I don't think we know anybody there, honey, but what do you need? Do you need a specific? I just didn't really understand the nature of her line of questioning that day. And she says, Mommy, I'm a Black woman, I'm delivering a baby in another city, and I don't know anyone. And she says, you know the statistics, and a part of me felt a little bit of shame there that I didn't recognize what she was referring to. And I was upset, and I tried to keep that from her because I obviously don't want her worried about anything else, but it really hit home as a mom and as a grandmother that my child was worried that her care wouldn't be comparable to someone else's. And that just shook me. Yeah. It shook me. And I actually started scrambling to see if we knew someone in the Charlotte area that I could just say my daughter's going to be there having a baby. And I think if you don't ever feel the way I did that day, then maybe you should think about it. Maybe you should think about how I felt and how other people feel when it comes to the level of care, and that it should be consistent for everyone, and you should never have to have that conversation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sadly, the statistics back up those feelings, right?
Right.
I think most people here know that the morbidity and mortality rate of children of color is not nearly what we'd like it to be compared to the rest of the population. So I think those are things that, unfortunately are still a reality that we have to work with. And so I'm curious from your point of view, and it's a tough question because I think people have been wrestling with this for a long time. We know some of the answer is, trying to get more people involved in the healthcare professions of color. But any other thoughts on how we can help to bridge to take away some of those anxieties moving forward? And again, not trying to put you on the spot.
Right,
That's a tough question.
No, you're not. You're not.
No, you're not. And you know what? Like my wife said earlier, we don't have all the answers, but we want to help. We want to help with that. I was talking to a young lady in here yesterday. She's going on her second year at an internship. I met her yesterday. She's in here somewhere. I don't know where she's at.
Oh, with HPA.
Oh yeah. But and she was, and I was explaining to her how are you liking it? Yeah, I'm at a good place, but in another year, I want to move up. I want to move up, and it was great for her to say that. Like, I don't want to be stuck at this place, not at this particular place, but I want to move. I want to move up. I want to be able to go through the ranks and get to the top and be like the person that if I walk in, I see her. Wow, I know this person. This is my doctor. I trust her very, very well, and I think we need to see more of that. And but how do you do that? How do you get into the neighborhoods? How do you find these kids? I think that's the hardest thing that we have to do, because when you think about if they want to get into something like this, you got to worry about transportation. How are they going to get there? If they have been training and doing other things, how are we going to get there and not let it just die down? Like the 514 tragedy that happened in Buffalo. That's something that's really dear to us, and we're not going to let it go down. We're not going to let it go away. And I think we need to treat the healthcare system that same way. And hey,
Stay on it.
I don't know how long it's going to take, but we have to start.
Yeah.
We have to start. And to taking it like other steps. When I'm up here talking as a black man, like the black community and the brown community, they're falling behind on everything. Everything from healthcare to technology to what AI now is getting ready to come up. We're way behind as a black community. And that hurts me more than anything. And I've been trying to do some stuff in Buffalo to get that started. I'm not going to stop until it does, but healthcare is the same way. And I would love to see, and I'm just going to tell you from facts, like as a black person, we don't like going to the doctor. We don't like going to the doctor.
But you can't speak for everybody.
I'm not speaking for everybody, but it's because we're afraid. We're afraid that we go there and we don't trust the doctor. And, my dad passed away, almost a year and a half ago. My dad was taking like 16 pills a day. 16 pills a day. My mom passed back in February, and she was taking almost 20. That's not the health care that I wanted my mom and my dad to be on. I take 3 pills now, and I'm trying to get off of all of them,
Yeah.
So, but the system has to be better. It has to be fit in a way that, and I always come back to trust, the trust factor.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed. Yeah, and again, taking away some of that, I mean, you've touched on, Thurman, that idea of when we have opportunity, at least what I'm thinking is within our organization, is identifying people, again, actively rather than passively, to help promote those individuals who may have an interest, and even asking, do you have an interest in pursuing something? The Health Science Charter School, who I think you're both familiar with in Buffalo, that's one of the things we've been able to do there, and I think have had great success with that as well. So those are really...
Yeah, the outreach programs and helping them, helping qualified or interested people just, get into the healthcare community and get jobs. It's a big deal. Yeah. But there's so many hurdles, and that's you guys out here. That's like,
we can help
and we can help lift up the programs, but that's
you guys have the expertise.
You're the professionals.
You're the professionals.
So we'll be there to support it.
So if you ever need us for something, we'll be there to support.
Let us know.
Yeah, we do. I mean, that's kind of what we do in our lives now, with that and the grandkids. But that's what I'm here for. I mean, this is the reason why I'm back in Buffalo.
Well, and if I can on that point, so kind of getting away from healthcare a little bit, and that's a little bit more micro and the macro. What are some of the challenges? And again, you kind of touched on some of it, perhaps, as maybe it starts with conversation, but what are some of the challenges in the broader sense of us as a community addressing racism?
I kind of touched on, I think for us, what our challenges are is that we're afraid to speak the truth. I think people are they're afraid to talk about what the issues are, and then we're living in this like very polarized time. Yeah. So we're afraid to that it's going to get politicized and our viewpoints. And I think that, for us, those are challenges, but I personally try to respectfully have conversations with people, especially people that may have different views, so that we can come to a common ground, start a conversation, and then get to the uncomfortable stuff, as Thurman mentioned, because sometimes having to get down in the dirt, with someone is the only way that you're actually going to come out and see the light of day, is to kind of get down in the dirt and have those tough conversations. And I think for me, and from what I've seen, especially in the Buffalo area, and obviously in other communities, is that fear of speaking out, the fear of having a different opinion when you're in a room full of people that look like you, and you're afraid to come out and say, you know what, that's not right. That's not right. And you're going to be that person that, you know, has the cojones to stand up and just, you know, speak out for something that's not right. I think we have to start being more vocal and stop being so afraid.
Yeah.
Really. And find thanks. Find your gift, find your voice, and use it, because each one of us has power that you don't even realize that you have, you know.
Well, and again, I mean, there's such a strong, you know, piece of advice there, right? We're all capable of that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We can all have a conversation, and it's the honesty.
Yes.
One of the other speakers this morning talked about getting rid of the voices that we all have in our heads saying, like, no, don't do that. You're afraid to
That's
do that.
right.
What will people think? As opposed to just coming out and saying, hey, here's a
Right.
question. Here's
Right.
a thought.
And I'm not promoting, you know, being offensive to people, like
Sure.
in a disrespectful way. But you know, if you know that something's wrong, if you know, speak that truth, and get a little uncomfortable. It's okay. If you're not being disrespectful and just downright rude, you know, maybe you just need to work on your diplomacy, the way you deliver a message. I mean,
Yeah,
that's-
I get off on, I deliver it sometimes the way that people be like, oh my God, no,
Yeah.
you can't do that. So yeah, I've lost
Right.
like 1,000 followers in one day, right? Because I typed it in and pressed send and didn't go, is that okay? So.
Yeah, that's probably true for you. Yep. But you know, I think sometimes that it's not a bad thing.
No.
It's not a bad thing. You let your emotions get the best of you sometimes, and that happens to all of us. But I think figuring out your way to best deliver your message for the people that you're around, that might be a skill that we can all work on.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, I'm an artist. Sometimes it's just through art. I'll paint something that, you know, bright colors, oh, the character's so cute. But then once we start to unravel what it really means,
Right.
it opens communication, and it opens a conversation up for what really might be behind the scenes, and what the message was there to deliver. And we all have those ways to share a message if we're not comfortable speaking it.
Absolutely. I'm starting to get quite a few questions coming in from the audience. So
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So one person asked that you made the comment about wanting to help everybody. So how do the two of you really determine what's going to be the focus of the foundation's efforts as you move forward?
Well, I mean, I can say that when we started the foundation, it was directed to education, like Thurman said, but we want to be very nimble with our focus on our foundation, so that when things happen like 514 or the blizzard or something happens, we want to be able to pivot and be able to, where there's a need, we can help, without having it just strictly be like, which is great, but you know, a scholarship program.
Right.
So we have a pretty broad range for our mission, and that's both of our decision. We literally just yesterday, there's a mom in town that used to work for Benecare, lost her job, has 2 children, is about to be put on the street. You know, we are helping her. So there's like certain situations where when they come up and they arise, we want to be able to do that. And it may not be that we can help her for a long time, but initially we want to be able to go and help that mom with her 2 children. So the foundation has a very broad mission, and we want to try to keep it that way. It gets a little tricky as being a 501(c) with our mission, but we try to stay within, you know, what we're supposed to be doing, and be there to help in different situations.
Great. Another question, there was a comment and a question, was very impressive with the work that you're doing with the Family Foundation and doing a lot of great things. Do you have, as part of your plan, a way to make sure that that's getting out to the community, with the idea being that good deeds promote other good deeds? So a little bit, obviously, today, sharing today, and hopefully this is giving people the encouragement to go out and do similar type of activity. But I think the question here is there anything as part of the foundation? Do you have a process with that, or is that something that there's opportunity for to kind of make more public a lot of the work that you're doing?
I think it could be made. I mean, we try to make it as public as we possibly can, right? We look at everything that comes across our desk. I mean, we look at on the news every single day. I mean, we have like my wife said, we have a wide variety of things that we want to do and that we will do. And most of the stuff that we see, I mean, we see it on television, or we see it in the paper, or on Twitter, and we'll go searching. We'll go searching to try to find out like how we can help. I mean, that's kind of how the foundation is going. Like, if it's $10,000 we need to give to somebody, we'll do it. We'll do it if we feel like it fits in our thing. But see, we're not closed to just one thing or two things. We're open to anything. We're open to anything. So,
and I think it's just we don't really publicize what we do because people know who we are. We'll get interviewed, and so there's that type of relaying what our mission is and how to help. We don't have an expansive board. We don't. It's a small.
We don't have a media creator or anybody like that.
It's a small foundation, and it's a family foundation that we run. One of my daughters does our, all of our books, and then we have an accountant. But it's a small foundation, so there really isn't like that we're out there trying to get big donations and things like that. We have a couple small events throughout the year, but we do have supporters such as yourself that come back every year and help us and help make things happen. We'd always be interested in expanding, but we're very busy, and you know how that goes. We try to spread the love, even with the other organizations we're involved with. But
well, and I will say again, for being in the community, I would say while you may not have a formal PR process, the word of mouth of the activities and support that you have given to the community, I think, is well known, and so I think that's working.
Yeah, it is working, and
it
we
helps
really,
when you're known. It helps.
Yeah, right. I mean, she's probably becoming more known than I am right now. I mean, seriously, like she goes to a lot of events. Like I said, she's on all them boards. I'm on the Albright Knox board, but she's done a great job of really like pivoting and doing what we think is right as a family, and she's been the leader of that, and I appreciate it because it takes a lot of the pressure off me because people when I go places, they want to talk football and what's wrong with the Bills right now, so I'm kind of like, why don't you go to this one there? I don't feel like it. I've had like 3 reporters call me today. Hey, can we do an interview about the Bills? No, I'm not doing it right now. I'm doing something else.
You're not going to get me to put my foot
you're not
in my mouth.
Right, exactly. So, so it's, a lot of this stuff that really comes that, we kind of divide it up, like you take this part and I take that part, and it's worked.
We're a good team.
We're a good team, yeah.
Well, and I'll say, growing up, certainly I was a huge fan of your role with the Bills, and I just want to say I'm a huge fan of the roles that you now play in the community, both of you supporting the work within the Western New York community. So certainly
Thank you.
Thank you so much, yeah. And we won't stop.
I know you won't. That's right. One last question that I did want to make sure I asked before we wrap up, and we kind of talked about it a little bit already, but for the group here today, is there any other kind of last piece of advice that you would recommend for each of us and our organizations of how we can improve things relative to the disparities in healthcare?
I was sitting here earlier, and we caught the last part of the speakers that were last up here, And the gentleman in this seat, and I'm sorry because we stepped in late and I wasn't sure who it was, and he kept saying, you keep hearing this word accountability, 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 and I even said it to Thurman sitting over there. That word is just always tossed around. There's a legitimate reason for that word is tossed around. But what are we doing with the word? You know, what's the follow through? And honestly, as business leaders in your industry, just like we do in our construction company and anything else that we do, look at your team. Look at your team. Is it diverse? Are you being inclusive? Are you providing equity? If you're not, do something about it. It's on you. If you're a business leader, do something about it. Look at your team, and if it's not diverse, that's on you. And how are you going to make that happen?
Yeah, and we were talking about that actually on the drive
Yep.
up here about, you know, I always bring up the analogy of the NFL. You know, the NFL has a rule called the Rooney Rule where they have to interview a minority for a head coach. I'm like, why is that even a rule?
Right.
Why
It's just
is
checking
that
a box.
even? It's just checking a box.
Yeah.
It's all you're doing. Because just look across the board, the 32 teams, there's 3 minority general managers, there's 3 black coaches. I mean, look at it. And the league is 70% black, and you don't have anybody making real decisions. Like who's going to, would the next commissioner of the NFL be black?
Yeah.
That position has been held by 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't even remember how many commissioners we've had. But if it's 10, all 10 have been white. Put somebody up there, a person of color that you trust and that you believe in, and start making a change. I think that's the thing that I kind of go with the most. Like, there's nobody like me making decisions.
Well, and it goes back to being very intentional.
Yes.
Right.
You can't
So let
just
the
it just
accountability actually be real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
let it play out and be real.
Well, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
Thank you.
appreciate the conversation today, and
Thank you.
I think everyone had the opportunity to gain some real insight. So
Awesome.
appreciate
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.